It's very, I think, cool, interesting, and powerful practice to reflect on what just happened in your meditation and journal about it. And we just came back from doing it for a whole week on retreat. It hasn't been a long-term practice of mine to have a meditation journal, but I quite enjoyed actually being able to reflect on, what just happened? Oh, my mind was planning and it was remembering, and the monkey was swinging this way. Oh, and there was these thoughts of kindness, and there was these resentments that I met with forgiveness, and just being able to actually inventory your internal experience by recollecting it and writing about it. I find it to be a very useful exercise that we offer to you. You might want to incorporate that with your meditation practice, or maybe not, up to you. But we have some time for questions about this perspective, and again, the topic really is effort, the effort that it takes to have a meditation practice, to have a spiritual life. And of course, Buddhism is more than just meditating. It's also the effort of renunciation and the action of service and generosity and an engaged life, the Eightfold Path. Only 1/3 of it is about meditation, and then 1/3 of it is really about being trying to be a good person in this world, and then 1/3 of it's about the wisdom and the intentional ways that we show up internally and externally. So, any questions about the perspective? Anybody that wants to share what happened for them in meditation? Happy to hear that. Or any discussion. We have time for that. Sarah?
I just, for the most part, go blank when I meditate. There's no thoughts. Sometimes it can get dark, like there'll be dark feelings, and sometimes not. But nothing happens. I mean, there might be like an occasional, but pretty much I just go blank. What's that about?
Would you characterize that experience, your perception of it, as being pleasant or unpleasant or neutral?
It depends on what's going on in my life, my mood. It can get pretty dark, but there's not so I'd say most of the time unpleasant, but there's not like, a thought or a memory or anything really.
Mm-hmm. And how, so I don't know what to, I don't know what to make of it. My own sense is that the whole game isn't really about what's happening. It's about how we're relating to what's happening.
How do you relate to nothing happening?
Well, it's not the nothing, it's the generally unpleasant.
Right.
That's what's happening, is you're having an unpleasant relationship to the blankness.
Yes.
Ish. Sometimes. Maybe sometimes it's neutral, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it can be relaxing, but, it probably means there's something at the surface that's trying to push through, is my guess, and at least that's what we worked out in therapy, but, I can't, whatever it is, I can't really get past it. And I don't think meditation should be unpleasant, but, it's mostly a lot of dread and when is this going to be over.
Right. And for me, that's where the practice really is.
Yeah.
How do I sit with dread? How do I sit with discomfort? How much tolerance, how much mercy, how much compassion, friendliness, and someone was saying, can we bring to boring, unpleasant, dreadful emotions? And my experience is that the more we learn to sit with it, more is revealed about if there is something under there pushing, eventually it will come up. We create that safe environment for those difficult emotions if they're there and they want to come up. And we just become more caring, more tolerant towards it. And we have to let go of thinking that meditation is supposed to be some certain way. It is, and I thought Soma did a really nice job of, it is what happens, whatever happens. Whether the mind is really loud and busy and you learn to tolerate that, or it's kind of quiet and that's, you learn to tolerate, learn to care about that. Maybe even learn to enjoy it. It doesn't sound completely pleasant for you, but there is, so many people want to meditate so that their minds will quiet down. So if yours is kind of quiet, like there's some, there's something there.
I think it's shutting down.
Shutting down
is what's happening. I close my eyes and just shut down.
Next. Oh no, that's on Monday, and I'm going to be talking about the 5 hindrances. And we will talk about them in here at some point, I think, in this series. But the Buddha talked about these different things that make meditation, that hinder our meditation. So one of them is sloth and torpor, where the mind just sort of shuts down. It's, just kind of puts us to sleep.
Yeah, I think I'm just checking out.
Yeah, it just checks us out. He says that, that's one of the things that the mind does it all by itself, and especially with difficult emotions, sometimes there's a part of the mind that's like, I just don't even want to look at this. I don't even want to look at my own mind. And we check out, dissociate. But I think that the more we keep coming back to it, the more we keep turning towards it, I really believe that more will be revealed. And I think the journal will be interesting practice for you.
Yeah.
Because it feels like, there's this blankness, but there was this, and there was a little bit of dread, and there was some feeling of pressure, and like seeing how that changes over
I feel physiological things like that. My chest tightens up, and I have to consciously breathe. Like I can't get into a rhythm at all.
Yeah. And then sometimes when you do that, and when you take that deep breath and you soften your belly and relax, then what happens in my mind? Because it's so connected, somatic, psychological connection. Sometimes when you just rest in the body and then you say, that opened something up in my mind. Thank you. You want to take that?
Yeah, maybe just it does sound like fear when you're talking about tightening the chest. And we're going to talk about later. We'll talk about metta and some of those things that you can do to kind of open the heart, and then maybe some of that stuff will come up, and there'll be some settling. Some of the things that we can do to create self-love and positive emotions, and maybe forgiveness practices, and all the things that we can do to kind of deal with trauma, honestly.
Yeah, it's trauma related. I know that.
Yeah. Suffering, trauma. Yeah.
So, in meditation and in my life in general, one of the big things that I'm constantly working with is judgment, self-judgment, and then gentleness around that. I really was very aware of that while I was meditating, where we had a thought. And I really love what you said at the beginning about you can have thoughts, but you can ignore them. That was really helpful. But when I bring it back to my body, judgment, sometimes I have to say, thinking without judgment.
Yeah.
And just letting myself be.
Yes.
And I'm aware of all this, but it's like breathing.
Yeah.
It's like breathing for the judgment. It just comes. I recognize it and like, that was my experience.
It sounds good, and it sounds like your relationship to it is wise, and you understand that it's not your fault.
At times.
Sometimes you understand that it's not your fault. Sometimes we aren't taking it so personal, and we see like, oh, my mind just has this deeply embedded tendency to judge. And then I even do it in meditation. I yank you're not supposed to be thinking. I yank my attention back. Even though the instruction was gentle, kind, friendly awareness,
And I'm so
But
much
still-
more there now than I used to be. Progress.
For sure.
It's certainly something that
But it's just important that we have that theoretical framework. What I'm doing here is led by kindness. And that is I'm not going to muscle into, my mind into submission. I'm going to try to love it. Even the negative, critical, judgmental habits of mine with friendliness, gently return them. We're talking about training a monkey. One of the images that I heard early on was training your mind is like training a new puppy. None of us have probably trained any monkeys, but maybe you have trained a puppy. So a lot of us know that experience of like when the puppy poops on the floor, you don't beat it and scold it. You gently say, over here, back on the pad or outside or, gently. Because when we do beat, scold ourselves as we have and others have scolded us, and we get, what do they call dogs that are traumatized? Like, I was looking for, but, just like on edge all the time. So gently training, coming back gently and trying to remember that. And I couldn't do it in the beginning, but progress.
Mm-hmm.
Just having that framework and having the thoughts aren't the enemy. It's going to happen. Your attention's going to go back into thinking all of the time. Soma is giving this big space for like everything, total inclusiveness. It's not about just being with the breath. Being open to your whole emotional, mental, sensory, human experience. And this is what the Buddha taught. This is what insight meditation is. The mind, the heart, the body, with non-judgmental, present time awareness, we wake up to how impersonal. How there's not really a personal self here. The mind's thinking all by itself. The body's feeling all by itself. The heart is emoting all by itself. We are not doing it. We are witnessing it. We are receiving it. And how are we responding to it? And that's where, the difference between suffering and not suffering. It's no longer what the mind is doing. It's how we are relating to what the mind is doing. It's no longer whether we're comfortable or uncomfortable. It's how we are relating to comfort or discomfort. Increasing our tolerance and then our empathy and then our mercy and then our compassion towards even painful, critical tendencies of the mind. You're not going to meditate that shit away, but you're going to learn to be at ease with it.
How long was that? Was it 30 minutes or?
30 minutes, but also, we talked for almost 30 minutes, so then you've already been sitting here, so if your body can get pretty uncomfortable, because you've already been on a cushion for an hour by the time we rang the bell.
Right. I have a question about the breathing. I found myself like this in meditation sometimes when it's like I have to remind myself to breathe, and I don't know if that's, I guess, is
is there a proper way to meditate? Like, am I supposed to be in an equal, even rhythm, or is it just how it flows on its own?
I'll let someone take it.
How do you breathe? Like when you're going through life?
Yeah, I mean, depends on the moment,
You
but
just breathe, right?
yeah, my body just knows what to do.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's
There it is.
all right, because I hear other people around me, it sounded more rhythmic, and I don't know if that's something I should aim for, or if that's what's ideal, or just everyone's to each its own.
You do you.
And I think that there's like yogic breath. And so you know, sometimes in a meditation group, people have heard the yoga meditation and they're doing the Ujjayi breathing or in through the nose, out through the mouth. People do things like that, which is more of Hindu meditation techniques. I believe just what Soma was saying is that the Buddha was saying, just pay attention to how the body breathes by itself without needing to control it at all. And even in the mindfulness instructions, he says, if you're breathing in deep, know I'm breathing in deep. This is what it feels like. Or if you're breathing in shallow, know that, oh, this is a shallow breath. This is what it feels like. I also like that we pay attention to the natural breath rhythm, natural state of the body, rather than manipulating it or controlling it in Buddhist mindfulness, so that you can take it with you in every activity. So, you know, when you're at the office or you're, you know, with friends or whatever, you can just bring your attention to your breath or your body, and it's rather than being like at dinner and a little, you know, nervous and start doing, you know, like you don't have to get weird. You can just be like, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Makes it portable, makes it a way that we can integrate it into every aspect of our life. And that's really the goal of mindfulness, which is everything all of the time, every activity of the body. And there's this insight that can come from just paying attention to the breath. Like I was saying, like paying attention to the mind. And you start to see, I'm not breathing. The body is breathing me. It's breathing all by itself. This is impersonal biological phenomena. And the more we can see that, the body breathes all by itself, the heart beats all by itself, we can start to wake up to the mind thinks all by itself. I'm not taking my breath personal all day, but I am taking my mind awfully personal all day. It's where most of my suffering is created. And as we break that misidentification with the body as self and under our control, we can start to break our identification with the mind as who we are and somehow under our control, and have that very relieving insight that the mind has a mind of its own. And that it will judge even when we're asking it nicely not to. And, you know, we won't suffer so much about it when it doesn't. So yeah, just breathe normally. Whatever that is for you in that moment.
I kind of find myself not breathing at certain points. And I'm like, oh God, how long have I not been breathing?
And that's kind of what you said too, like not breathing. I'm curious about that. What would happen? I think your body will just breathe.
Right.
Yeah.
But
There's
there's
like
that self-awareness that's like,
Yeah, there's a little bit of a panic, and then I'm like, I get a little tight.
Then deep breath
And
comes
then,
in.
then I have to do some deep breathing and try and relax myself again.
Yeah. You start getting tired, you start yawning, and the body will just make you breathe.
What's happening for you then?
I think I kind of lose awareness. And then I think I'm kind of drifting off. And then I'm just stopping. And then my mind notices that I'm stopping, and then it's like, where are we? What's happening? Yeah.
So it's like a sleepiness thing.
Yeah, I think it was. I think I did notice certain points through the meditation where I was kind of dozing off.
I'm always curious, just as I asked Tara, for us to bring our investigation, whether like the judgments for me, obviously unpleasant. The breath, stopping breathing, is it pleasant or is it unpleasant or is it neutral? Right? What is our relationship like to our perception of that experience, whether it's the breath or the mind or body getting sore from sitting still? Because that's really where, okay, am I suffering about this or not? Am I turning this into something that I'm not at ease with? Because the big potential of the Dharma is you can, when the Buddha talks about nirvana, about freedom from suffering, in the midst of whatever's happening, we have this idea that I'm going to get to a place of peace, which is going to be like really pleasant and no judgment, no judging thoughts, and the body will be breathing in an even rhythm. But I don't think that's what it is. I don't think that's what the guy was talking about. He was talking about being in such acceptance of what's happening as it's happening, whether it's pleasant or it's unpleasant. And he had injuries and he had all of this conflict in his community, and he was being attacked, and there was assassination plots and false accusations. Just all of this shit was being thrown at the Buddha. Some really unpleasant experiences. And he said, I'm at peace with all of it as it is. Not like life is just easy and good all of it. It's easy to be at peace when your mind is quiet and pleasant. And he said, no, in the midst of all of it, freedom with what's happening. Much better goal. Much more realistic. Meditating ourselves into acceptance rather than some idea that it's going to be blissful all the time.
How does everyone feel about journaling? Do you like doing that practice? Is there interest in keeping that going? Yes. I feel like I'm seeing some. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
The 3 people that just did it for a week. They're like, this is great. I just did it all week. It's awesome.
Can we maybe see hands who's into it? Okay. All right. So we like it. All right. So you've got some journals.
Do you want them to take the journals home or leave them home?
Yes. Take your journals home and then, practice with them at home. See if you like it with your daily practice. If you can do a little bit after your practice, whatever you have. I don't know if you have 5 minutes or half an hour or an hour, whatever you're doing. Write a few things, write a few words after your practice and see if it enriches what you're doing already. And then, we'll check in. I don't know what you have planned for the next, if they should bring their journals or.
Sure.
Why not?
We're going to talk about faith and inspiration and motivation and, getting a practice going and keeping it going and what's inspiring us. Something like that. Inspired to revolt against the man. Dan, please.
Well, if you like this practice of recollecting and journaling, my name is Dan Nussbaum, and I teach recollective awareness, and once a month I have a day-long sitting where we do this practice, and luckily enough, tomorrow is the day.
Yeah.
So if you have time, it's in Silver Lake at my home, and you're welcome to come. You can come in the morning. It starts at 10. The morning session ends at 1. And then in the afternoon, we go from 2 to 5. If you want to come for part of the day, come for the morning. You're certainly welcome to come all day. It's even better. I'll give you my phone number if you're interested. It's, you're not interested.
People can come ask Dan, and I'll just say that Dan is, was just assisting me on retreat. He taught at the East Side Against the Stream for years. He's not a kook.
Well,
High praise.
over
here.
But you never know at meditation groups where people are just like, hey, come to my apartment. Dan's a good dude and is highly trained in this method. And go sit with him if you're interested.
Thank you. They seem so well.
East side. There was another hand back there. The chair.
Oh, no, I was only raising my hand because the whole writing snake out of the
Oh yeah, this
stupid thing on my hand.
Yeah. with you.
I have the Ouroboros. Against the man. So,
There's that camp here.
Yeah, I just had a question about the journaling portion of it, because very quickly I had a, be in meditation, I was like, oh, I should write that down. But I find that that's disruptive to what's, at least in my experience, was mildly disruptive. So I was like, I don't know what you guys think about breaking what you're doing to write that down. I can't say there's anything, like, you know what I mean? And I felt like I was able to revisit it, but I can't say there's anything important. I don't know, but it just kind of went back to it in my meditation. I don't know what you think about breaking that whole thing for it sitting down.
So there's something about being pretty light with this practice too, and being willing to let things go, because we might get pretty attached to experiences or thoughts that we have in the meditation and be like, oh, I want to cling to this because I want to make sure that I remember it so I can get it down. And like you said, maybe even want to stop meditating because it's super important. Got to get that down. But, just see if you can sit through it. It's almost like sitting through an itch in my experience. That feeling of like, I really need to scratch this itch, which if you think about it, it's really just a craving. An itch is a craving. So I like to think of that sensation of like, I really got to write this important thing as it's a craving. Can you sit through it? And then you're probably, especially if you start to do this more often, you're probably going to be able to recollect it.
I'd say I got fortunate with this, where it came back. It came back a couple times throughout it, and so I was able to know it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer to break things to write it down, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to this time.
Well, and that's the interesting thing too, right? That's probably the knowledge about yourself is that piece of information right there too. Right? That's the knowing. Anyone else?
So since there was like so much space in the meditation for the thought, I'm not really harsh with them. Lately it's been more of the physical discomfort and getting kind of antsy towards the end because I want to squirm around. And I guess I'm not really sure how to push through that to be able to sit a little bit longer and stop being so antsy.
Maybe trying to reframe it of just being more tolerant of the antsiness rather than stop being, that because it's the I want this to go away that is creating the anxiousness or the antsiness around it. So just framing that last 10 minutes of discomfort or whatever it is as tolerance practice and bringing your attention directly to the sensations rather than I've got to come back to my breath or just like, where is it that it hurts? It's in my knees, it's in my back, and investigating the sensation directly. Okay, my knees feel like this and they're burning and they're stabbing and they're tingling, and where's the edge of the sensation? How far down my shin do I feel it? And where's the center of it, or wherever it is? And looking, really like bringing your mindfulness into the sensation and knowing, unpleasant sensation. If it's physical pain in the body, or if it's just anxiousness, where's that? Where do I feel anxious? My breath gets shallow, my chest gets tight, my jaw gets tight, my palms get sweaty. Bringing attention to those experiences with the intention to be friendly, with the intention to be accepting. And, sometimes you can bring some antidote practices like intentional abdominal, some deep breaths will often alleviate some of the anxiousness or antsiness.
I can usually feel it starting when my back will start to hurt and then my shoulders start to creep up towards my ears, and I have to be really conscious to stop it.
And one of the last thing, and we'll end here, it's all about how we frame it as whether it's like a blessing or a curse. Like, I'd be happy if I was comfortable. But if you're comfortable, then you wouldn't have the opportunity to develop compassion. So the discomfort is actually giving us an opportunity to practice tolerance, develop compassion for pain. And we need that. Like, in order to have the life of freedom that we want to have, you're going to have to get really good at compassion. So a lot of what we're going to do on the Friday night class, loving kindness and compassion, and have to change our relationship to pain and build the skill of being uncomfortable. You were there with me in Thailand when Ajahn Amaro said, you got to learn 3 things, my teacher. We were in Thailand and we went to one of my teacher's talks, and he said, you got to learn to be bored, which is uncomfortable. You got to learn to be hungry, which is uncomfortable. And you got to learn to be lonely, which is uncomfortable. And looking at discomfort and increasing our tolerance for all of the unpleasant emotions and sensations and loneliness and hunger and boredom as a skill that we're building, as an opportunity to create ease in the midst of difficulty. And just so that when your body gets antsy, you can frame it as, oh, this is a great opportunity. Rather than, this sucks. And actually, if you're too comfortable, sit on the hardwood floor. I want you to be uncomfortable while you're meditating so that you have the opportunity to develop some friendliness, some compassion towards it.
The unpleasant seat is gone.
Unpleasant seat. We put the
Nobody
wood.
wanted it.
Yeah. So we'll end there for tonight. Thank you, Soma.
Thank you.
And Ward, you were amazing. And the class is done by donation. And the suggested donation would be $15 to $20 for a drop-in class. But really, we don't put somebody at the desk and charge at the door because we want access for everyone. Whether or not you can afford 15 or 20 bucks, you're welcome here. But if you can afford it, please give it. We're paying $75 a night rent on this space. And, and then you're supporting me as a teacher. These guys will get some donations. And you're supporting us. But I don't really like to think about it personally as like a transaction for the class, but much more of like supporting the Dharma continuing. And, these classes continuing. And, we used to have a meditation center on the east side. And at some point, if the community grows again and there's enough generosity and support, we could have a meditation center on the east side again. It always happens from the community supporting it, not paying for classes, but by saying, I want to support this thing. I want people to have access to this. And so your generosity creates access to these teachings and practices. So please be generous. There's a basket at the desk on your way out. And I think Rick will be there if you want to do Venmo or PayPal, or you can do that kind of stuff too. Or cash works. Some people still have cash. We're not here next week. We're back on the 31st. And Ward and I will be talking about faith and confidence and inspiration and Revolution. So join us next time. And then after that, we will be on a weekly schedule every Friday. Am I forgetting anything, Ricky?
Do you have any classes coming up?
I've got some new classes coming up on the west side in March. I'm going to do a 4-month monastic study with Ajahn Chah, where we're going to do one Sunday a month and then one-on-one meetings with me. It's on the againstthestream.com site. Check that out. I'll also have a day-long retreat in March or April. Anyway, some things coming up. There is a 3-day silent residential retreat in Washington State up by Seattle in February over Valentine's, 14, 15, 16. It's President's Day weekend. If you have the time, energy, resources, you want to come and sit for 3 days up in Washington, that's next month. And then is a silent retreat. And then the Memorial Day retreat will be in May. So all of that's coming up. Any merit that may have been developed during our practice is offered in all directions to all beings. May each one of us awaken, and together may we create a positive change on this planet.